Welcome back to the Raising Rock podcast. I'm Elise and I am your host. Today we have my mother on the podcast and I am so excited to dive into this topic with her. I think you guys will be blessed. We're going to talk about pride and how it shows up in parenting and how challenging it is to admit that we're prideful in our parenting. This has been a really humbling topic for me over the last couple months. The Lord has really been doing a work in my heart when it comes to realizing that I have some pride that I'm dealing with. So I hope that you will be blessed by this episode. As usual, pause whatever you're doing before you get into it. Subscribe, follow the drill. It really does help us become more discoverable to a new audience. We're putting a lot of effort into booking amazing guests. And the more you interact with the content, the more visibility the episode gets, which helps us book more guests in the future. So it really does all make a huge difference. So with that, Mom, welcome to the show. Hi, Mom. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. So good to be here.
I love having you on the episodes because I feel like you draw out of me what I'm really struggling with. You bring so much wisdom to our conversations. And I have really been struggling with something, and I've shared a little bit of it with you, but I think this is going to be a really helpful conversation for me. And I hope that other people will be helped by it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. So we had a situation with Benji not too long ago, and I'm not going to get into the details. I want to protect his privacy, but the situation did blow up, and there was just a lot of confusion around the situation. Was he a problem? Was he not a problem? Like where was his fault? Where was our fault? Where was this other family's fault? It was just a lot. And I was really troubled by the situation. It kept me up at night. I found myself just really consumed by thinking about it. I would see these other people and I would be consumed by their thoughts of our family. I was just consumed by the whole thing. And the Lord was really revealing to me as we were walking through the situation that I have a pride issue that manifests itself in parenting. And when I say that, what I mean is when this issue is happening, yes, I was concerned about Benji's character and his behavior. I care very much about that. That is the whole mission behind what we're doing at Raising Rock and who we are and all of that. I care deeply about that. But my go-to reaction was actually more, what are other people going to think about me? What are they saying behind my back? Oh, I haven't heard from so-and-so in a few weeks. They must be mad at me or how I handled this situation. Or I haven't heard from this person. And I start to just spiral out of control, not because I'm kept up at night about Benjamin's behavior. I can deal with that. I can put it in the box. We can work on it and move past it. But I'm kept up at night because I'm just so concerned about what people think of me.
Well, I think that's a natural response we all have. And we care about what matters to us. If we care about our jobs, we care what people think about our work ethic. If we care about our family, we're going to care about what people think. So it's very natural, I think, to feel that way. But it does cause the question of priorities and heart behind things. Because at the end of the day, it always comes back to the heart. And in that instance, the focus really should be primarily on Benjamin, which I know that it was. But when we let pride sneak in, that's never going to end well. And I think we've seen how this has spiraled a bit in your life.
Give me some examples of how it spiraled.
I think you were just kind of obsessed with it. It was morning, noon, night, and you would call and you'd say, I haven't heard from so-and-so. I wonder if they heard about Benji. I wonder if they think ill of us. And I think it was especially hard because you didn't view the situation the same as the other family viewed it. So you felt a bit of injustice in it as well.
Yeah, I think that definitely probably led to some of the feelings. But I think I was just really humbled by how quickly I made it about me.
Wow.
It was not about Benji. It was until it wasn't. It was initially about Benji because we had this aha moment of, okay, there is this issue. It needs to be addressed and it needs to be dealt with. And so initially it was about him. but how quickly I turned it into being about me.
And I think from this situation led to some discussions that we've had that I actually think are more important kind of than that initial thing. That initial incident has come and gone, resolved, really no big deal. Kids.
I made it a big, I mean, no, I shouldn't say I was the sole responsibility of making it a big deal. It was made a big deal, but it was addressed and it was dealt with. I kept it a big deal because I was unable to let it go. And I just sat and I made it about myself and I stewed and I stewed and I stewed.
Okay. So the lesson in that is, I think when we see something and you had a check in your spirit that your response wasn't right and we started talking through it, it really opened the door to what I think is even a more secondary issue that stems from pride. That's been really, I think, where we want to go with this. So I think I'm just going to pivot onto that because we've had so many discussions about that. And it has to do with how we view our children, how we speak of our children, and how I thought of the question, if Ben and Luke become what they hear us say of them, who will they become? If all the words we speak, if they hear every conversation we have with another mom, all the things when the kids are playing on the playground and we're standing over the sidelines talking about the kids, if they become what we say of them, what will they become? And that's just been an eye-opening discussion. We've had so much talk about that.
And it comes back to what I said. I've made this about me. And to answer your question about what the kids would hear me say about them and what they would become are things like, they're a handful. Yeah, they're doing great. We're working on things. Oh, there's challenges. And I think the reason I make those statements, again, is because it comes back to being all about me. I want people to know that I'm so self-aware. I know my kids' challenges. When someone comes and compliments me and says, oh, hey, the kids are doing so well, I can't just receive that. I have to go, oh, we've been trying. They're a handful. Thank the Lord. They're getting better. I care so much about what people think about me and my parenting that I turn it into me and what I'm doing. And I don't just receive the compliment and say, thanks so much. They're doing great. I say there are opportunities and there are challenges. Like I have to make it about me. Does that make sense?
It totally does. But the reason behind that, and I know that because I did the same thing when I was raising you. We've all seen that parent out there that their child may be a nightmare, but they just go on and on about how wonderful they are. Oh, so this and that, and they're so this and that. And they're
so athletic. They're so smart. You fill in the blank.
And I think you and I, we find that off-putting. And so we so much don't want to be that we're going to be objective, and nobody's going to ever come back to us and say, she was saying how good they were doing. Did she not see them last week on the playground? Did she not see what they did? Did she not see what they said? Because nobody's going to be able to criticize you for not being objective about your children.
It's so true. So if I'm going to be anything, I'm going to be so objective, and I'm going to be so aware of their behavior and myself as a parent, my flaws in parenting, my good in parenting, whatever it is, to their detriment, to the point where they hear me saying things instead of receiving how well they're doing and how much they've improved. They're going to hear me saying things like, oh, thanks. We've sure been through a lot. Things are so hard. And oh, wow, yep, they're so challenging. And it's off-putting when someone is so one way of, my child is so athletic and they're so smart and they're just so amazing and they're just so this. But it's also really off-putting to reflect and look back at myself of not speaking highly of my children, because they are amazing young boys and they have turned out, well, I haven't finished raising them, but they are in the process of turning out so well. Why would I not see them for what they are?
And the sad thing is, I'm the grandma and I do the same thing. And I adore them like nobody adores them. But I don't want to be that obnoxious grandma that just thinks their kids do no wrong. And I bring them to church with me and they misbehave in Sunday school. So nobody's going to say of me that I am not objective about my grandkids. I will be objective. And the people that pay for that are Ben and Luke. And why is it that when somebody comes and just says, oh, what wonderful boys, why can't I just say, oh, thank you so much. We're so thankful to the Lord. We love them so much. God has been so good to us. Why can't we leave it at that?
Why do I have to continue with things have been hard, but they're getting better?
It's equally unbecoming to the other. I think of a story, and we were talking about this morning. My dad tells a story and he gives credit to somebody, and I don't know who he gives credit to, but it's a story about Johnny. And Johnny is this child at school that is a nightmare. And every teacher lives in fear of getting Johnny in their classroom because they know it's going to be a horrible year. And there was a new teacher, a young teacher. She had heard all the stories about Johnny, and he came into the class ready for the usual, I've heard about you and you're not going to get by with it in my class, and I got my eye on you. And instead he came up and she said, Johnny, she said, I have heard all about you. And you know what? I don't believe a word of it. We're going to have such a good year. I'm so happy to have you in my class. And the story goes that changed his whole life. And so that goes back to the question I was asking you. If Ben and Luke become what we speak of them, what are they becoming? And that doesn't mean that we excuse wrong behavior, but you've heard the thing, praise publicly, correct privately. We need to affirm our children, not be unaware of their shortcomings, not push them under the carpet, not address them. If they're doing something in public, we need to pause, but we need to do it respectfully. They need to be treated respectfully in public. And they say it takes 10 or 100 attaboys to undo one unfair criticism. And so, yeah, we have to have really high expectations, and that's a whole nother discussion, but our children need to hear us speak well. Do you remember, we didn't even talk about this, do you remember that thing we saw on Instagram, that post quite some time ago of the parents that were recording the boy? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it made me cry even talking about it. It was this little boy, and his mom and dad caught his reaction on camera, and they're just talking about how amazing he is and how wonderful he is. And they're filming his reaction of them just going on and on about how well behaved he's been and how he's really stepped it up with his siblings and how loving he's been. And the look on the little boy's face was just so much joy that his parents.
Well, and the point of it was he was in bed or whatever, and they were talking outside of the room. It was set up as a thing where they planned it, but it was that he didn't know that they were.
Yeah.
I didn't say that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was what was said about him, and he just was overhearing it. That was the magic of it, that he was overhearing it, and they were talking about how incredible he was. And it's like, do our kids hear us say that?
Yeah.
But do they hear us when they're upstairs and company's over? Do they, can I just tell you what God is doing in Luke's life? Yeah, there's negative things, but can I tell you about the great things God's doing? Can I tell you about the wonderful kindness and compassion he shows? So I just think there's a lesson there for all of us in every relationship, not just with our children, but with our spouse. When you get together with friends, is it all the negatives about marriage? Is it all the opposition of marriage and all the struggles of marriage? Or is it from a heart of gratitude and praise for the good things that God is doing?
And when it's not, it is rooted in a place of pride and focusing on self. Because if we can get out of our own way and not worry what other people are thinking about us and not think highly of ourselves and put our relationships in our lives, God first, then our marriage, then our children, we're going to, out of a grateful heart, is going to flow out praise for that person and adoration for that person. But when we're thinking about ourselves and what we deserve and what we want people to think about us and what we want said of us behind closed doors, it's going to motivate the wrong things to come out of our mouth.
Yep. And I want to be clear, this is not about, I don't even know the right terminology, manifesting or speak it and it will be. That's not what I'm talking about. I think there's a very biblical.
Absolutely. The Bible is very clear about the importance of words and the effect of words. It's not manifesting, it's understand the power of words. James 3:6 says, And the tongue is a fire, a world of iniquity. The tongue is so set among our members that it defiles the whole body and sets on fire the course of nature. And it is set on fire by hell. If you think about the tongue and words, one little spark can spread a whole wildfire. And so there is absolute power in the tongue. And if it can be negative in the sense of it can cause destruction like a wildfire, it can also cause blessing. And that is not manifesting. That is not speaking something into existence. It is choosing your words to speak life over your children.
I think the Bible talks about the goodness that comes from loving words, and they're healing. There is healing power in the words that we speak over our children.
I was going to say Proverbs 16:24, pleasant words are like a honeycomb, sweetness to the soul and health to the bones. Proverbs 18:21, death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruit.
Okay, so death and life are in the power of our words. So if we want to take that literally, we want to speak life into our children. This is a little bit of a diversion, but I was talking to a friend who lost a son, and she had it had been a challenging life with him from the time he was very young. He died into adulthood. And she was a very firm disciplinarian and worked really hard to hold him accountable for poor behavior when it manifested itself. And I just on a fluke, I asked her, I said, now you're on the other side of this. You could do anything. What would you do? What would you do different? And it was interesting, her response. She goes, I would just hold him. I would love him. I would speak love and life into him. I would speak into him the power of the word of God and speak life into him. I would affirm him over and over. And yes, we correct. Yes, we discipline. Yes, we call out sin. But I think in this world, this lifetime that we're living in, the world is harsh. There is no end to the people tearing our children down. And as a mom, as a grandma, may we be that voice that just affirms and affirms.
And the voice that knows that there's life in the power of the tongue. And we can watch our child's countenance rise with our words, and we can watch it fall with our words and with our tone of voice. And again, I just think about how much of my responses and my reactions and what I say about the kids is rooted in pride and being worried about what people think of me and not being worried about speaking life into them.
If I would say one thing in closing, and this is something when I have the boys with me, I try to do, and I think it's something in the busyness of life, moms probably, you get to the end of the day and you just want the kids in bed. You just want to be done with the day. And I just would encourage a mom, if you could just carve out time at night, just lay in bed with your kids, talk to them, love them, talk about their day, pray with them, encourage them, build them up, strengthen them, call out the good things that they've done in the day, notice where they've grown, call it out, pray. That time is the most important time of the day, in my humble opinion.
I couldn't agree more. And I have a lot that I'm not doing well. And it's been a huge area of conviction for me lately, as this episode is putting on display. But one thing I always do for the boys when I pray for them every night, and I hope they remember this as they're adults, because I feel I do it every night. When I'm praying, I say, thank you, Lord, for giving me these boys. I'm so lucky that I get to be their mom. And even when they've had a hard day, I tell the Lord how lucky I am to have them. And I have them overhear me saying that. And it's one small thing that I do that I hope moves the needle, but I need to be doing 100 more things like that, and 100 more hugs, and having them hear me tell other people how much I love them and how wonderful they are and how much the Lord is doing in their life and how much growth they've had. They need to hear me being their biggest advocate. And I love what you said about I need to praise publicly and correct privately. There's nothing that I need to be doing publicly that's going to build their character and build who they are as men by making them feel bad about what I say to other people. That's not going to solve any problems.
We so often, if you've gotten to know us at all, you're going to hear about my dad, and this is on the heels of his passing. I never heard my dad say anything about me that was negative ever. To the day he died, he never spoke ill of my mom publicly. He would never, ever speak ill of her publicly. And when he would tuck me in at night, when I was a young girl, he would always tell me, God knew that you were the perfect daughter for me. You were perfectly designed by God to be my daughter. And it's like that identity that was instilled in me, that I was perfect in the role of the daughter of Richard Dresselhaus. He didn't want me to be any different. I was perfect. And I guess I would just leave that with our parents. Let your children grow up knowing that they're perfect in your eyes, not falsely, not fake, not realizing there's shortcomings that you're working on, but they're a perfect gift from God for you. And I hope that we can focus more on that.
I miss Papa.
I miss Papa more.
It's been hard, but you're right. He would never say, even me, I don't think he ever. And I went through a lot of challenges in my teenage years, and I never heard him say a single bad thing about me.
Well, and about the boys. What did he say about the boys? Oh, God's got something big for the Orozco boys.
Things would be hard with the boys, and he would just say, God's got something so amazing for those Orozco boys. Man, those Orozco boys.
God's got something great for them.
And he would talk about like famous brothers that had just done amazing things, and I can't think of any right now, but he'd be like, the Orozco boys, they're going to be like those brothers. They're just going to do amazing things for this world. And
he would never get into the, it's been really hard. I just believe God's got something great for them. He just wouldn't.
He would not engage in the negative. He would never engage in the negative.
Objective. Yes. He saw it. He prayed. He doubled down on his prayers. Yeah. He doubled down on his prayers for them. He was not unaware, but he wouldn't go negative.
Yeah. So true. I think we could keep going on, but I don't think it would add anything to what we're trying to say. So we just pray that this, even just in our mess of trying to address my pride issue and how I make everything about me and self and take away from my children and don't speak life over them when I should, I hope in my mess of trying to be vulnerable and share that with you guys, that even if it just touches one mom listening to tell her kids tonight that they are the perfect gift for her, then it's all worth it.
Yep. I love you very much.
I love you more.